Hello and welcome everybody to Denver Music Gear Podcast. I'm Jacob.
I'm Dylan.
And we're here at Flipside Music in Denver, Colorado. We got a new set today.
Yeah, trying something a little different.
Check it out.
Now you guys get to see what's on the other side of the camera.
Yeah, usually we're faced that way. Today we tried this. Let us know what you think. There's a big old shadow on my face. I do know that. I do notice that. But we'll deal.
Yeah, I'm not sure what's just enough from the light, I guess.
Yeah, here. I bet I can. This.
Uh-oh. The screen did at least. Oh, there we go. Okay, we're back.
Dude,
we may not have gone anywhere as far as you're concerned. In the room we did.
The electricity has been unreal. I just shocked myself on the amp.
It's been weird today. I started the microwave, and like it's always a little funky back there, but I started it earlier, and like rather than just like one light dimming, everything dimmed. Weird. So I'm not sure if we're having like a weird. I guess the factory could be pulling more power than normal. Maybe I don't know if that's a thing, but
maybe it could just be real dry.
Yes,
I mean we are in Colorado.
That is true too.
It is the driest.
Well, and we had like a whole week of moisture, and then now nothing. So it could be going back.
Oh, that happens to me. I'll drink like a bunch of water, and then the next day I won't drink any, and then I'll just feel like extra dry.
Yeah, just
like
full on raisin.
I don't know if people of a certain vintage will remember the bitter beer face guy. I think it was a Miller Lite commercial or something. And they would do like, he'd drink the beer and then it'd go, his whole face would like suck in.
Okay.
Bitter
I don't know if I am quite old enough to remember that one.
I was definitely a kid.
Yeah.
It might have been for Keystone.
Okay.
Which I think is like Coors runoff.
It's just like all the scrapings.
Yeah.
Like like as they're filling, just all the scrape off runnings.
Well, it felt more like this is not good enough to be Coors Light, but we're not going to throw it away. So
we'll just repackage it.
Put that in the Keystone package.
Yeah. There you go. Honestly, you're probably not far off.
I don't know what.
Now, that time you definitely didn't touch the guitar.
I touched the pedal board.
Yeah. Huh. Maybe you're like building a charge and then dissipating.
I don't know. It's so weird. We've got the Marasenzo X on the board here.
Yes, if you hear any flourishes.
Oh, and we got a couple people here. We got Dastardly Dave and Carla out there. Thanks for joining us every week. We really appreciate it.
Yes, we do.
Even though we talk about sandwiches and nonsense and... Oh, I said I was going to give a shout out to the band that played last night at the Crypt.
Oh, did you? Oh, yeah, that's right.
They're called Temptress, and everyone should check them out. They're probably coming to a town near you. They're on tour for the last 3 years. They told me their next 3-year plan.
Wow, okay.
It's
long-term plans for a band. What style of music?
Stoner doom kind of stuff. They were really cool.
I think I've listened to them before.
Kelsey, the guitar player, was just like up there like headbanging and like ripping solos all night. It was awesome.
Okay.
They were great.
Where are they from?
I guess now they're kind of scattered, but originally from Dallas.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah. It was a good show.
Little Tejas band.
Yeah.
A little stoner band from Tejas.
I wanted to say this to the folks out there. Maybe not the few people we've got here, but who might tune in later. A lot of people complain about there not being rock bands or whatever. Like I'll see this on the internet of like, ooh, where'd all the rock bands go? Well, you know what? They're at your local bar on a Wednesday night because, like, no one was there. And I feel really bad that it wasn't better attended because the show was great.
Yes. Yeah, and I was going to say that is... I mean, honestly, that's something at large that kind of bothers me. Or even every once in a while, we'll have conversations up front. And, if somebody comes in and says something to that effect of, like, where are the rock bands? Or, like... And I do get it. I would say I think maybe it's one of those, like, perception versus reality things of, like... yes, unfortunately, rock bands and guitar in general are not necessarily the focus of pop music and haven't been for quite a while, which is why I think that's why people say that.
Oh, for sure.
'Cause, like,
It's not in the top 40.
Yeah, yeah.
It's certainly probably not in the top 10.
But the thing is like there's a top 40 for everybody now, rather than like a top 40 just via the radio. So like that's the thing of like if you're looking for it at all, you'll find it. You just gotta look for it. And to your point too, if you even want to go the extra step and see it, yeah, literally go down to any of your local. I mean, I would assume most cities in America, local bars and local theaters, there's got to be rock bands playing pretty regularly. So it's like it's not gone. It's just.
And it may not be Tool or Foo Fighters.
Yeah, they may not. But see, honestly, yes,
But
that's actually a better point too.
But it'll be Temptress
Mm-hmm.
because they're not on the radio. They're not going to be on that top 40, or
Yeah,
Billboard's
some of
not
my
recognizing them.
absolute favorite bands and shows that I've seen in the last decade have all been by bands that would not fill those like huge places. They're all playing High Dive or the Crypt or maybe the Gothic at the biggest, but.
And I used to work in a stadium and an arena and a shed, which are all about like 20,000 to 70,000 people.
Mm-hmm.
There's a thing. It's a fun thing, but there's nothing that can be replaced by those like intimate,
Yes.
smaller shows. And even like the Gothic or the Ogden, you can be pretty far away at the back, but if you're down front, that's like the best.
Well, yeah, it connects with you in a different way because, like, the older I get, the more important that gets. But also, like, I'm not as willing to get into like a stadium to see things now. Like, I would much rather go to like High Dive or the Crypt, where you can be a little more upfront and have that more like. I mean, it is a more personal connection because, like, I may not be. It's like the audience might. It depends on the genre. Audience participation varies with genres, but I still feel like that connection and that kind of back and forth play between the audience, like you experience that in a club or a bar, it's just so much more fun than, I don't know, like stadiums are fine, but like you said, everything just seems, the scale of everything's just a little out of whack.
Yeah, and you miss, like, I'll use Jimmy Eat World as an example. The first time I saw them, they were opening for Green Day and Blink-182 at Fiddler's Green Amphitheater,
Okay. Yeah.
which is about 20,000 people. It's a giant shed. The sun was up. They're wearing sunglasses, and I was like, this wasn't great. This performance, they played fine.
Yeah.
The show was fine, but it was like, it just felt like something was missing. And then the next time I saw them was in a smaller, it might have been the Gothic. And the show was amazing because the energy was just visceral, and you're like feeling it with everybody, and you're singing along, and everybody's having a good time, and there's not like, literal space between you and the next person on the lawn up there.
Yes. Well, especially Fiddlers.
200 yards away from the stage.
Well, because honestly, I would say Fiddlers is almost kind of conducive to that experience, unfortunately. I think I've seen quite a few shows there. Some of them have been really good, but some of them have also been like I've seen those bands other places, just like you said, and it's been a very different experience. It just depends. But yeah, I don't know. There is very much something to, I don't even know what the limit. I guess you worked more of that stuff, so you might have a better idea of like what is the threshold limit of that that connection with the band. Because like for me, like I feel like personally, when I start to get too far back, even like the Gothic, like if you're back by the bar, like to me that's still it's good enough, and like you're glad you're there, but it is very much not the same thing as being down on the floor, like you said. And then same thing even at like the High Dive, like being off to the side versus like right up front makes a big difference. But it's still like even just being in the bar, and like I think too, like when you see a band connect with an audience, whether you're like in the middle of the audience or even slightly askew, but when you're in a club or a bar and everybody starts moving, it's a very different thing. Like that, like you said, that energy is more palpable, maybe.
Yeah, it's maybe 100 cap room would be like the Crypt.
Yeah.
Because like
Like
the other night I had an experience there where let's rewind back to the 90s real quick.
Okay.
And in movies, they would show these scenes of these clubs of people just like losing their mind and having a good time. And I was like, I never really experienced that or like felt that.
I always wonder because like that's still a staple of like shows. It's still a thing, but yeah, I know what you mean.
But the other day there was a band playing, and the crowd was into it, and the band was giving it their all, and there was this feedback between them, and like good, not ringing feedback, but like
like
connection.
actual,
And I was like,
energy feedback.
I was like, oh, I'm in a 90s movie right now. This is what they were trying to convey. This is that feeling. I feel it. And so maybe that's the cap for that. Not saying it can't be good bigger than that, but like it's also the performer.
It is, for sure.
Because there is something to be said about somebody like Ed Sheeran, who packs stadiums which are like 70 to 80,000 people, and he is up there by himself, no band, looping and doing the thing, and he connects with all of those people. It's uncanny.
Yeah, and that scale on your own, that is actually pretty impressive. Whether you like his music or not, like that is impressive.
Yeah, it's uncanny. And the only other people who seem to have that kind of connection are like your Rihanna's, your Beyonce's, Chris Martin of Coldplay. Like these people who really do, Dave Grohl.
Yeah, people that can kind of take over an audience no matter how big.
No matter how big. Yeah. But that is a rare trait.
Yeah.
There's only so many of those people.
Yeah.
Because you have to do the whole thing. You have to write killer songs. You have to play at the top of your game.
For nights on end.
And then go be engaging with an audience. And like, there was an...
Well, and also making it feel fresh. Because like, that's something I've noticed, like when I've seen certain bands, when... I think the audience can feel when it feels canned. Like when the lines in between songs are canned, any of that stuff, because like that's something that, for the most part, like when you see metal bands, a lot of them barely even say anything, so it's like that's not really a thing. But when I started seeing other shows where that was not necessarily the norm, it was pretty interesting to kind of see that, where you're like, oh, this is literally the same thing you said in this, because you'd see videos of them before they even get to your town, and you're like, oh, this is literally word for word what you said in, Cincinnati a week ago or whatever, and that part of it is interesting, because like the people that are really good at it that I've seen are always able to do it kind of spontaneous, like they're able to be in the moment. Rather than it just being because I'm sure it's a practiced skill.
Well, even when it's rehearsed, there's a way to
make it feel more. Even make it feel not necessarily personal, but more relative to like the place that you're at.
Because like I used to do 2-show-a-night shows of these like smooth jazz artists and things, and every now and again they would have the canned things, and there was one person that. Both shows, I was like, man, how did you do that? That I knew you were going to say these things, but it felt fresh and new to both audiences. It was really interesting.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because it's something like on a social level, I find that part to be, the people that are able to do it, I find it interesting. Yeah.
Well, and those people are magnetic in a social situation anyway.
Yes. Yeah.
Too.
Yeah.
Like, there was another artist I asked, because I want to say it was Stolvon. He played the club I was working at year after year. And there was one time I asked, I was like, every time you play, whether you're opening or it's your show, every person in the crowd seems to be like focused on you intently, and like you've just got them.
Yeah.
And I was like, how do you do that? It's not every artist can do this. And he said, well, I think of it like a web, like I'm a spider, and everybody is in... And I'm sending out energy.
Well, I was just going to say, some kind of energy matrix. Yeah,
every single person through that web. And I was like, wow. And then it got me thinking about the Chris Martins of the world and how they're in like the best shape of anybody else. And you think it might be for vanity or for like, oh, well, they're a rock star. They have to look good. They also have to project that energy to 20,000 people. Yeah. And I'm sure that is draining if you're not in good shape.
Yeah.
And so there's something to be said about like all these things of like, why are Coldplay so big? You know, if you're an artist out there and you're thinking like, well, I write good songs, and I play them well. What's the disconnect? It's this like magnetism that is buildable.
Well, I guess that's the part like next then that I'm sort of wondering about of like, is that a skill that you just have to sort of develop? Is it something you're kind of born with? You just got to fine tune, or obviously it's probably a little bit of both. But
well, maybe she's born with it, and maybe it's Maybelline.
Well, it's definitely. I mean, that's at least like 33% of it.
But I think you're alluding to a good point of like it's a practice. It's just like practicing your guitar.
Oh yeah, for sure.
You have to go stand in front of a crowd and like try out those things and see what works and see what lands and what jokes work. Because things that work between you and your friends may not work with a crowd.
Oh yeah, 100%. Well, even I mean, kind of case in point for that. Like I never really paid a huge amount of attention to Pearl Jam out of like the big four and like the grunge scene. I kind of liked Soundgarden and Alice in Chains and Nirvana even a little bit more. But I liked the early era of Pearl Jam. And when I was watching their documentary about 10, however many years ago that came out, I was pretty fascinated to like see how much Eddie Vedder struggled with stage fright and social anxiety and all that stuff. Because honestly, that's something like I think everybody deals with it, but it's interesting seeing somebody, because like as long as I've been alive, more or less, he's just seemed like this peak rock star, more or less. Mm-hmm. And so like to me that was kind of a weird thing to think about, Eddie Vedder being like too afraid to get in front of an audience and do what he does. But when they were talking about how Chris Cornell more or less kind of mentored him, and then also kind of that was why they ended up doing the name of the band's escaping me. But,
not Mother Love Bone.
No, that was the
other one.
Yeah. I don't know why it's escaping me right now. It'll come back to me. But essentially they did that side band with Chris Cornell and then some of the members of Pearl Jam. But it was to kind of Temple of the Dog. That was
there you go.
Yeah. They ended up doing that because it was sort of Cornell's idea to kind of get Eddie Vedder out there in front of an audience doing things without it being high stakes of representing the new band, as Pearl Jam. And same thing for him. It doesn't really reflect that much on Soundgarden. It was kind of its own thing. But that same thing of like everybody has a first step. It was really interesting to hear about his first step, considering where he's at now. Because to me, he is, even though he's kind of one of those more withdrawn artists, he's still able to like take over an audience, especially in some of those more intimate settings when you see, him kind of just as kind of the focal point. But he really is able to pull in the focus of the audience, whether he's trying to like, because you have some of those artists that kind of swoon the crowd. You have other ones that just kind of get up there and do their thing, and they're magnetic kind of regardless. Mm-hmm. And I'd say he kind of fit more in that second camp. But it was just interesting to think about, again, that obviously he struggled with that, was able to do it, but even he needed some kind of jumping off point.
Well, yeah, nobody is born. There are probably very few people born who are just like that.
Yeah, that are ready for that. Or just, yeah.
And like...
Yeah, because I guess you're right. They always talk about certain artists, they become that.
Yeah,
right
all
now.
of it is like practice.
Yeah.
And if you're thinking like, well, where do I practice talking to an audience? Open mics.
Yeah, that's true.
It is the lowest stakes place to try out your stage banter, try out your jokes, try out all of it. Mm-hmm. Like I'll give one away, right? I'll give you one. Yeah. So there's a way to grab an audience when there's nobody paying attention, but this takes practice too. Of like, you say, "Hey, Lions Lair, how you doing tonight?" And they're like, and you say, "Hey, Lions Lair, how you doing tonight?" And just doing it twice and a little bit louder with a little bit more gusto, they're like, "Oh, this person means business. Yeah, we are here. We are here to pay attention to you." But see, the first one, you're like, "Oh, I'm meek. I don't know. Hey, Lions Lair, we here to party?"
Yeah.
Crickets, crickets, crickets. "Hey, Lions Lair, we here to party!" That's a big difference, right?
It is, yeah.
But that's the magnetism of the like difference. And that's the difference too of like, you know, standing there with your guitar like this, or like, you know, putting your
full power pose.
Yeah.
Full power stance.
Like all of that makes a difference in slight perception of, oh, they mean business, as opposed to they're just up there playing music.
Yeah.
Like the person last night, she's up there like legs wide, like stance, like guitar between, you know, letting the hair flow.
And it works.
And it works because they're ripping guitar, and, you know, the audience wants to see you succeed. They definitely are not there to cheers you to fail.
Well, yeah, and I would say the other part of that too is when it comes to stage fright, or at least personally speaking, most of the time, a lot of people in the audience are like amazed that you're even willing to put yourself in that situation.
Yep.
So like that's one of those things. I think a lot of times there's more goodwill there than you might think, I suppose.
Especially because your internal voice is like,
yeah. Oh, I'm going to screw it up. It's going to be awful. Everybody's going to hate me. Nobody's going to come see my show again.
Yep.
Yeah.
That voice is the loudest thing that you just need to be like, hey, buddy, for the next, like, hour, can you just shut the fuck up?
Yeah, just take a back seat. Yeah.
And, you know.
Well, it is interesting because, I mean, yeah, I see what you're saying. Because, like, there are some artists that when they reflect on some of that stuff, they do kind of talk about it in a way that almost sounds not quite like an out-of-body thing or anything, but more like a flow of consciousness thing where they're kind of descending into that. They're kind of, you know, pulling from the energy of the crowd, too. Because, you know, I would say context is definitely a big thing when it comes to even, like, with what you were saying. Because, like, I've seen certain bands where it can land really odd if they come out of the gate swinging too hard.
Sure.
Like if they come out like too like before because I would say like I'm almost more of a fan of like when a band comes out and just punches right into a song and then does their intro. Because I would say like for me it's more of like they've kind of come out, they've already got your attention, and then all they got to do is kind of just pull you in, remind you of what's going on, who they are, and then they're off and running. Whereas like I see what you're saying, because like you know, trying to get an audience, or even like if a front man's trying to get the audience's attention, like let's say you've got a band changing out and it's the second band, you know, that's definitely something. But I would say it's contextual, because like sometimes how that stuff lands can kind of come across. It depends too, though. I mean,
well, and that brings up like flow of show, which I agree. I think a nice like in the bigger concerts they have like a kabuki drop or something.
Yeah.
There's like the curtain is there and then it like falls to the ground and they're like bam,
which is a good yeah.
I agree that's how a show should start.
Yeah,
because them coming out and being like, what's up, Denver? How you guys doing? We're gonna play some rock and roll music for you.
Yeah. It doesn't that or even like I feel like I know it sounds funny, but I feel like this happens more when I've seen like punk or punk adjacent shows. Dudes will come out and there's like a lot of times they'll have a slightly nervous energy, and for whatever reason they start trying to kind of chit chat with the audience. And a lot of times, sometimes that gets too specific and it just comes across a little awkward. Whereas, I would say bands that kind of come out, especially bands that know, like, hey, this song is a good song to start with. We're gonna hit it with this, because that's one of those things too of like once you've peaked energy, it's not a great idea to let it dip back down into that awkwardness or where everybody's kind of overly aware of all that. Like I think being able to roll right through those moments is definitely better. Because I've seen certain bands where like I've seen them kill a vibe pretty quick, unintentionally, but where like they start trying to chit chat with the audience, or they'll pick somebody, and it gets a little too personal, and like that can feel a little awkward.
Well, and you brought up a thought for me of like, just roll through the show. No matter what happens, the show must go on.
Yeah.
What you should never do on stage.
Ever, I know where you're going now. Yeah.
Never apologize for anything. If a string breaks, don't say, sorry we broke a string. Just change the string.
Yeah.
No one cares. Just do the thing. Move through it. The audience doesn't need to know or care. Never say you're sorry. You lose huge amounts of points.
Yeah.
for saying sorry from the stage. Oh, sorry, I unplugged the thing. Oh, sorry, I bumped the microphone stand. No one cares.
Yeah,
No one cares.
unless you can land it as something funny, like weaving the apology into something funny, like you said, proper banter between like bandmates, like that can be kind of funny.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say apologizing or like
for like technical things.
Fumbling it. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah,
or like, and never throw your sound person under the bus. I mean, like as a sound person, that this may seem a little like boo-hoo, but it just brings the level of the show down, the professionalism of the show, of like we all heard the feedback, and unless it's like ringing for minutes and they're at the bar like doing something else that's extemporaneous, don't say anything. They know they're doing their job, and they're hopefully you don't need to apologize for anything. You're the rock star. Everyone's there to see you. They want you to be the superhero. You're a superhero.
Well, I would say, picking at sound guys or picking at
the bartenders.
It depends on the thing, but picking or the security guys depends. But a lot of times that can definitely come across very diva, or diva energy. But I know what you mean because I've seen that a few times too. I would say like, oddly, one of the weirdest confrontations I ever saw. It was nonverbal, which was the weird part. But confrontations between a band and a sound guy really did come down to like the band basically removing the mics, turning their amps up, and just kind of going for it. But it was one of those things where I noticed it, and like I know that I know other musicians, I'm sure in the audience noticed it. But it was one of those things where it didn't interrupt the show. And I don't know that a lot of people even like paid attention. Like to them, it was just. I mean, I think for a lot of people that don't play or don't set up any of this stuff, it probably just seems like a prop. I mean, it literally could be anything that's on the stage. So it was one of those things like it didn't mean, but I knew obviously what was going on. But it was to your point of like I've seen that same situation where the dude, rather than just taking the matters into his own hands, dealing with it kind of his own way, he ended up kind of cussing out the sound guy in front of the audience. And it kind of ruined, it really took the vibe in a very bad direction. And it was actually somebody that I've seen a few times, and I can't say I've ever seen them really do that before, but it was one of those things where it kind of hit everybody wrong. Mm-hmm. And he was right. He was well with it. Like the energy and like the anger that he was coming into the situation with, I would say was warranted. But doing it in front of the audience totally kind of was a bad move. And, obviously things happen in the moment. But, it's kind of two different ways to handle things. Because, like I said, I've seen that same energy be applied two different ways. And I'd say the other one was honestly cooler of, like, they got rid of the mics, turned the shit up, and just kind of went for it. And so they were like, well, this, if we're going to be dealing with bad sound, whatever was going on.
But they silently dealt with the situation.
Yeah, they didn't cuss out the venue. They didn't cuss out the guy working the sound booth. Like, they just kind of went forward with the show. Yeah. And it was great. So, I would say that there's definitely some validity to that of, like, you don't want that shitty kind of diva energy entering in if you can help it.
And, like, with strings breaking and things, like, in practice, have your bass player and your drummer vamp. Learn to vamp on things. Or like the band I saw last night, they broke a string. The bass player, in between all of their songs, so he had already had this thing prepared, was a Boss digital delay that would do a quick loop.
Oh, yeah.
So it'd be like, boo-doo-doo-doo-doo.
Yeah, perfect, yeah.
Yeah. And maybe the drummer would like do a little cymbal swell or like hit the toms or something. And it was very cool fill-in thing while the guitar player quickly changed a string. They didn't apologize. They didn't say anything to the audience. They just did it. It was wonderful.
Yeah.
These are all things that can help your shows go smoothly and this is my thing with bands lately is like we're all on the same team here. And that team is Team Have a Good Time. We all want our, at the end of the night, the fans, the venue, the band, the staff to go, that was a good night. We had a good time. And that's the goal.
Well, and that is a good attitude, I guess, to go into it with, but also a good attitude to remind other people, because you're right. Ultimately, like I would really hate to believe that anybody working a venue is out to like sabotage the night, because like it's in their best interest to continue having a job there. It's in the venue's best interest to continue having bands play there. Yep. It's in the band's interest to continue performing and being able to get gigs there and in other places.
Yep.
So it's nobody's really entering into the situation with malice. There's just obviously,
and this is still a thing.
Yeah.
And this used to be a lot more prevalent, but like substances used to be so involved. Drugs, alcohol.
Yeah.
Used to be a lot more prevalent, where all of your underlying issues that are like, all the stuff happening at home or like whatever.
Yeah, all the wave of it just comes out.
Amplified in things. So, the person moves a mic stand and you're like, God damn it!
Yeah.
And it's like, well, they're not mad at you. They're mad at like their whole life situation.
Well, and I was gonna say, like, it's funny that you bring that up, because like there is something about, maybe it's the repetition of music too that does that. Mm-hmm. Because you're right, like it's really, because like I guess, I don't know, speaking personally, you can see if you relate at all, but I would say the repetition of certain things within music, like especially if you practice the same songs, it doesn't matter whether it's over the course of a couple months or years or whatever it is, but like every once in a while you do get stuck in these like deja vu kind of moments. Mm-hmm. And sometimes I would say that like every once in a while those things also scrape at things, if that makes sense. Like whatever, because like I know like I've met certain guys that play a lot more than, play out a lot more than I do, and they even have kind of told me similar things of like, they'll have had like some crazy thing happened at a practice with like a different dude like 5 years ago, and like all of a sudden they'll be up on stage, they'll go to do something similar will happen, and they just instantly go from like 0 to 11 in terms of anger. And I would say like it's kind of an interesting thing with that, now that you bring that up, of like I wonder if there is like a psychological element to the repetition of music, and like how those emotions kind of get seeded into those patterns. Because like there's definitely validity, because I know what you mean, like even when when you see certain dudes, like you can kind of tell when you see, like even when you see bands kind of get angry with each other on stage, you can tell, like if you've been there with any of that stuff, you can kind of see it, where you're like, oh shit, that's something that happened at practice, and like it's like you can kind of tell. But it's kind of an interesting thing now that you say that. Like I never really thought about those things getting ingrained into your.
Well, and keep in mind, a lot of these people are on tour. They've been on tour for who knows how long, months.
Very true.
Could be years.
Yeah,
they're
already
in a
on
small
edge.
Van. There's all sorts of stuff happening behind the scenes that, like, if you just keep your stuff professional in the venue, then you don't have to worry about those things.
Yeah.
And like have the goal be good time, as opposed to like, well, my goal is to just get drunk.
Well, and it's interesting you said, because I would, even with some of those bigger bands, like you do see some of the ones that kind of leaned more into, having a better mental health state going into the stuff, versus the ones that really don't. Because like, there's elements where, our bands even, and I would say even, like you said, previous generations, it was more of a thing because there was also a certain level of authenticity that maybe was tied to the substances and the life pattern. All that stuff was kind of went hand, because it was one of those things, like you find out a band isn't doing those things, people would take them less serious, which is really weird when you think about it, especially when a lot of those things are detrimental. Because like now that I think
back in the day, it was cool.
Well, yeah, no, but that's what
we
I'm
didn't
saying.
know how detrimental it was.
Well, yeah, and that's sort of what I'm saying. Of like in hindsight, it's like it's really interesting to think. Like even the dudes that, like a lot of the guys in the '80s that literally got more or less, belittled back into like either drinking or substance abuse shit, because like the audience found out that they were drinking iced tea instead of alcohol or whatever. Those types of things where like I think that's kind of an interesting aspect of that. Because even, Gordo had been talking about, who works with, he'd been talking about Some Kind of Monster, the Metallica documentary. And it was kind of funny because I hadn't thought about that movie in years, and I was thinking it really is weird how some of that stuff hits you different, obviously, in different points in your own life. But even like the shit with Lars in that movie, like it was so over the top compared to where they are now. Like in mentally, like they went through all that shit and it's good, but it's interesting like in hindsight because he's almost not even recognizable compared to the way he is now. And so I think it is the emphasis on that for big bands and small bands has totally changed.
Oh yeah, and like what's kind of nice is the trend nowadays is sobriety.
Yeah,
Like I think the Temptress, I don't think one of those three people drank, and so that's just completely eliminated. I don't drink, so the sound person's now not drunk.
Yeah.
Also, or like disappearing to go get shots at the bar.
Yeah.
So things are a lot more professional just in the industry.
Yeah, and if the venue owner's not only operating the venue to party and do drugs, then that's also they're actually operating a legit business. Then that changes that dynamic too. So
and that things in general have gotten harder business-wise.
Yeah.
Running a restaurant, running a bar. That,
I see what you're saying.
That those people have to have their shit together.
You're kind of forced to grow up a bit in that regard.
There's still the party element, but it is certainly not, like you said, I just have this bar to get messed up.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because that's what, like, a lot of things, that was literally, like, you tell, like, a lot of those old stories about venue owners. It's like, it was literally just a front for them to have a place to party and do, I mean, that was literally the whole thing.
But yeah, I mean, like, more than half of the venues in this town are run by corporate entities.
Yeah.
It's not even, there aren't even.
Which has its
There's
own,
a handful of, but that also makes it more professional.
Mm-hmm.
They have a lot more at stake because it's a giant corporation as opposed to just like, oh, it's my bar that I go get high at.
Yeah. I don't know, that is interesting. That's an interesting thought of how that thing, how those things have changed, where they're headed. Because I mean, it's interesting too. Like even with what you're saying too, of like as that professional part of it kind of is in there, then some of the chaos obviously necessarily gets kind of swept out of that. But yeah, it's interesting because I don't know. Obviously, people are kind of attracted to that sort of thing, so it's kind of a twofold thing. I don't know. I guess I'm just thinking about the way, like I said, the way things used to be with perception versus the reality of it. It is kind of one of those things where more people know maybe how things are for real now than used to, if that makes sense. Like, especially with like bands being able to document like how things are on tour. Like I think audiences have a better idea of like what it is, what goes into the, what goes into it from the band side of things, what goes into the production of a show. And even too, like there are a lot of sound guy blogs and stuff out there too, where like you have certain ideas of how certain things are being done, when used to it was just it might be a snapshot in a magazine, and that's the only perception you had from outsiders, other than going to the show.
And word of mouth of like, that venue's bad, don't go there, that owner sucks, we got stiffed on money, blah blah blah, this that. Now, like you're saying, instantly you're on Instagram Live and you're like, hey, this dude sucks. See his face?
No, but I mean that it kind of
not takes, you just got caught in the crossfire.
But it kind of does pulls the sheet off, or the cover off of everything in a different way.
In a good way.
Yeah, in a good way.
Because you can immediately expose those bad people, the bad actors in the whole thing.
Yeah.
But it's a two-way street, right? Like you got to keep up on yourself and be on the up and up. And so you're not a bad actor so you're not like you showing me on Instagram, right, being like
we're both just like, this guy saying I'm shit is actually the one who's shit.
But there's that too, I guess, of like you have to verify and are people telling the truth?
Yeah.
There's a lot,
Well, yeah, because it's weird. I mean, because in a lot of ways our culture is almost more confusing now, because in terms of like what is and what or what's on the internet versus what actually is kind of its own predicament. But on the other hand, we've kind of talked about that with other aspects, but that interconnectivity between audiences and the bands is a completely different, or even just the single artists.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they like that connection there is way different than it used to be, and it's just kind of interesting what that is kind of doing to the business at large.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because you have a personal relationship with these bands, seemingly. Because you can DM them and...
Well, and that's what,
at the smaller shows, you can go meet them at the merch booth after the thing and have a conversation and get them to sign something.
And that's what I was thinking about, because, used to, that was... you'd have some people that were just determined it would make those things happen regardless. Like, they just show up at a show and try to make that happen. Mm-hmm. But you're right, now it's so much easier. Even, when, some of our favorite artists, we've been able to get them to even, swing into the shop before their gigs. It doesn't happen all the time, but, it is really fun when it does. And it's one of those things, that personal connection, too, carries a weight to it, too. Because it's those people, you're kind of endearing yourself to people in a different way than used to be. People didn't even have those options.
No, because they were superheroes. They were this god that could not be touched, and you were like, how am I going to meet Jimmy Page?
Yeah.
What? Where am I supposed to meet Jimmy?
I would say, because my respect for certain artists is not tied at all really to their record sales. But I would say you're right, in the past that used to kind of be one of the only gauges for not really the legitimacy of somebody, but that was kind of the main gauge that the public had. You didn't really have a lot else, whereas now you can really explore an artist in a different way than you used to be able to. You can actually explore them as a person, but also if depending on how much they put out there. Some of them, you can even get lessons from some of them now, which is that blows my mind sometimes when I see that, because it makes total sense.
Well, Robin Ford.
Yeah, exactly.
Literally, he's offering lessons, 3 different packages. One is a video lessons, that are already pre-done. The second one is video lessons and group lesson with Robin, and then you pay a little bit more and you get your hour lesson with him every week.
Yes, yeah.
Well,
no, and it blows my mind that that's an option. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Especially with some of those, because that is the thing. There's certain people, and I'm sure you're that way too. There are certain people to me that might not be legends to the public, but are kind of legends to me. Mm-hmm. And it's just that ability to connect with those people now versus the way it used to be is just world of difference. But I think that does translate too, even to I guess the greater conversation we were kind of having about just that audience connection, because it's you get 25 of those people kind of spreading the word, and you've in this day and age you could have a show fill up pretty quick.
Oh, definitely.
Because it's you basically have all these people. It's almost not like a social club, but kind of gets into that same thing, but you have a much more direct connection to those people than before. And again, like I said, it just depends on. Because even to your point earlier about people saying that certain genres or things are disappearing, I would say almost the opposite, or at least my perception is the opposite, because there's more people making more music than ever, making them in more varied genres than ever. Mm-hmm. And not only that, you can actually get access to those people. So if you want to talk to them about their influences or what kind of steers them into what they're doing, that's an option that just never was even there before. A lot of that stuff, if you got interested in some artist, if they were even alive anymore or doing what they were doing, by the time you found out who they were, that window might have already passed. They might have completely moved on. Whereas now you can literally just kind of connect with somebody right away, which is interesting.
I've never done this personally, but nowadays you can reach out to somebody and be like, what was the fuzz pedal you were using on blah 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 record?
Oh yeah, no, we do that with Isaiah Mitchell all the time.
And they'll respond.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And whereas 20 years ago, I had to wait every month for my Guitar Player magazine to get whoever they happened to interview that month and see their pedal board.
Right.
That was one pedal board every month.
Yeah.
So 12 pedal boards a year. Now you can go on a quit board and just for days learn everybody's pedal board. And
well, I'm saying because to me I always like seeing what artists actually use, not what they're... Because, like, a lot of artists, especially these days, do have sponsorships, so there's always, like, that surface level of stuff that they're going to be promoting, which I totally understand. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times, a lot of them, you know, they will support brands that they actually use. Mm-hmm. So there is that. But then when you kind of look at certain artists, that, especially ones that kind of throw together different things at different times, it is really fun to kind of see where they're at and see what they're kind of... Because, I mean, it's not quite the same as, like, you know, because I think all of us here, we all kind of chat about our pedal boards all the time. Like, you know, somebody throws something new on their pedal board and you see it the next week. You're like, oh, hey, that thing's pretty cool. What is it? But being able to do that with artists that you actually really love is like a whole new... I think that's a whole new era of stuff that we're in. But it's also one of those things of, like, if you respect an artist a lot and you make that effort to reach out to them, you can have those things now. And I would say, like, I would take that versus the stadium shit any day of the week. Like, having those more, whether it's the show is more personal, your connection with the artist is more personal, all of those things, like, I think are so much more meaningful because they are on a smaller scale now. Mm-hmm. And it's like, I know that it is harder for artists now to make a living, harder than ever, obviously. But I also would say it sort of puts in perspective... Maybe, yeah. That's probably two. You're right. Actually, that's two.
Like, if your connection's solid enough, there's a full living there.
That's true. But even that kind of that balance between, I don't know, well, I kind of lost my train of thought a little bit. No, it's okay. But I just feel like if you do respect an artist enough, you make that effort to reach out and connect with them. Like, you can find any of that stuff. You just have to look for it. Where, you know, I feel like a lot of people do maybe expect... I don't know if they expect the top 40 stuff to somehow be their introduction to those things. Because, like, to me, I'm trying to even think of the last time that the radio or any kind of top 40 anything introduced me to anybody that I really connected with, or, you know, whether it was a personal connection and or just listening to their music. But, like, the amount of stuff that I've found and then gotten into, and then that kind of spider webs into other connections with other artists doing similar things, because it's kind of wild where you end up. Like John Delgado, he's a local customer of ours that plays in Ritmo Cascabel. I think I'm saying that correct. But they're kind of like a psychedelic cumbia band. But I started talking with him, like, you know, last year, and he kind of sent me on this whole thing of, like, that was actually how I got into Lalone last year. And then I started looking into all these other artists that did, like, the cumbia stuff, and it's like it's a whole avenue of guitar that, like, is incredible, like, incredibly sounding, and, like, it's super simple in terms of the bands that go, like, I'm interested in that because it's like it's kind of a throwback, but it's a throwback with a new flavor. Mm-hmm. And to me, like, that's a thing. Like, you can get a hold of any of the, even, you know, the Lalome guys ended up stopping in the shop, which was kind of a funny thing because I had just gotten kind of familiar with their stuff when they came by. But, like, again, being able to do those things and still being able to reach out to, you know, I asked him about one of the guitars he was using not too long ago, and that stuff, like, I wouldn't trade that for the old way, I guess is what it is. Like, I think in that regard, maybe some people feel like things have gotten worse because that music is not in the forefront. But at the same time, I would say with where we're at today, your ability to kind of connect with those people is worth the trade-off.
Well, and that's the thing. Like, with Ritmo Cascabel, they're not going to be on the radio necessarily. Not in the top 40. No. They'll be on 102.3, the local... NPR station once a year for a month because they'll pick one of their songs and that's how that works. But, like, if you're not listening to that, you're not getting turned on to new music. Like, when I go to my parents' house, they always have KBCO on, or The Mountain, I think is still a thing. It's all the same music I've heard for the last 40 years. I was just going to say,
those set lists have not changed at all on those.
There's maybe a Noah Kahan song every now and again. But, like, the new stuff is few and far between on those stations.
And again, if that's your only exposure, I suppose you would be led to believe that there is no rock music now or whatever it is.
But, like, if you don't know Ritmo Cascabel, you should check them out because they rule. Yeah. It's so good. And they'll play places like the Crypt or the High Dive. Yeah. And if you don't go to those places, you're gonna miss it.
Yes, 100%.
And they're amazing.
And I would say, again, you'll have a better experience, again, with those things, or a more meaningful one in those situations than you would at a stadium seeing some rock band, like you said, that's been doing the same thing for 40 years.
Mm-hmm. Like, when Ritmo played The Crypt the first time, it was my first time ever running sound for a cumbia band.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I was learning new things, and then they played, and I was blown away.
Yeah. Well, even talking about that audience connection, watching them literally just like take over an audience was pretty. Like, I haven't seen that. I don't know. I guess, like I said, I haven't really been around a lot of that music. Because like a lot of that music is very conducive to dancing, for sure.
Oh yeah.
So I'm not necessarily somebody that's always kind of in that environment, but seeing them pull an audience like that, especially at the High Dive, it was just really cool because it's like I'm in a place I've been 100 million times, but seeing it in a new light, I guess, because it was just one of those things of seeing that audience kind of just everybody of all kinds of different types of people were there, and it was just really cool. But again, those are experiences that, like, yeah, if you're not running around looking for those things and trying to make that stuff happen, it's pretty easy to miss out on. So.
And that's not necessarily a guitar-based band either.
No.
There's a guitar player in it.
Yes.
But I would say the lead instrument is the timbales.
Yeah, 100%. Well, yeah, because that's something, like, the more I've been listening to that stuff, because honestly, a lot of the cumbia stuff, it's not totally dissimilar to, like, some of the Arab and Middle Eastern music I've listened to too. Mm-hmm. It's just those rhythms change, but like even like a lot of the scales are really not that different. Mm-hmm. The vibe is not that different. It really is just a matter of like little flourishes and little things, obviously, that are centric to those regions. But like you just said, the real shift with cumbia is definitely the rhythm, like in terms of the percussion, because like even though the guitar with like Middle Eastern stuff and with cumbia, it's really not that far off. But yeah, the rhythms are something, like I would say the percussion is definitely not treated the same way in Arab music, but it is to an extent. You do have a lot of hand drums and like Arab and Middle Eastern music, so it's kind of a different thing. But it's so fun to watch those elements kind of play out, because you're right, like once you kind of have those rhythms start, and then once the percussion kicks in, that's when everybody starts kind of hopping too. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, but no, like it is. It's a fascinating thing to watch.
And you almost like can't help, like whether you've ever danced, well,
because I was even like sitting there like trying to, because like I don't really dance much.
It's just like you.
Yeah,
can't
I was
help
like,
but,
yeah, even I was doing the same thing. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's like in Beetlejuice.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
They're like, well,
yeah, it's just their bodies are all. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It is actually, now you say that, it is very much like that. But see, that is like you said, that's that connection with the audience of like you can get that, and you can get that in a more personal way when you're in those theaters and clubs and bars. So.
And you know what? AI will never replicate that.
Yes.
A band that like
yes
reaches you and just pulls you in and makes you move.
Yes.
There's nothing like it.
Yeah.
So that's probably our time for the day. So as we wrap up, instead of going to touch grass, which you should also do, go touch the dance floor. Yeah,
touch some beer-splattered floors in your local dive bar and see a real band doing real things.
And you never know who you're going to see. I'll always go back to this. The Lion's Lair is a tiny little bar on Colfax, and the White Stripes played there.
Yeah.
On their way up. So if you go out on a random...
Shit, I mean, Mike Watt used to have a residency there, so it's
on their way up, they were touring the smallest of places, and if you would just go out on a Thursday night to see a band, you might get to see the next biggest thing. Mm-hmm. They're not all going to be the White Stripes.
Well, no, but I mean, even to that... No, but I mean, that is a really good point. Like, especially these days, because honestly, like, lately, we were kind of... Briefly, I won't get into a whole other thing. We were briefly talking about how you get exposed to new music. To me, like KXP, ever since, well, honestly, like the last 10 years, they've been just a gold mine of kind of finding new bands for me. Mm-hmm. And so they're one of those ones where like I really love it whenever I see a band that I've known about for a while end up on KXP, because then all of a sudden they just kind of they just spread out. But that is one of those things of like there's lots of places. You just got to find the right one for you. But there's plenty of places to get connected with those new things and find those new bands. So yeah, I would say like.
And then when you see that band on KEXP, go on their website and see when they will be in your town.
Well, that's what I was yeah.
Because
yeah,
chances
pursue it
are
further. Yeah.
they were either just there or will be there next week.
Yes, yeah. But yeah, that's one of those things like that. That part of it is something that's pretty special about today. That's definitely, I can't imagine was anything similar to, the 70s and 80s. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're in a golden age of gear and music and anything. So if you think it's not there, you're just not looking hard enough.
Exactly. Yeah, that really is what it. Yeah, that is what it is at the end of the day. Yeah, you just got to look harder, and if you really care about it, you'll find it. So
yeah, because there's some gems out there for sure.
Yeah. Well, and it's to me like seeing the smaller bands is way more of a reminder of like why we personally even do this stuff at the shop. Because like for me, like it is one of those things. Like I realize now. When I go too long without seeing shows like that, I like that inspiration level. It's like your inspiration tank just starts to kind of run out, and then you go see a local band, and then all of a sudden it's it's full again. So.
And it seems counterintuitive because you're like, well, I don't want to steal from people, but you got to fill that well.
But I think that's some of that energy you're pulling in is that though. It's that inspiration to be like, oh yeah, this is why you want to make music to kind of get a crowd to move, like, because yeah, like even though I don't, like I said, everybody's personality is different. Some people have very outward facing personalities, some have very inward facing, but at the end of the day with music, the ultimate goal is to get people moving. And so for me, like having that inspiration to kind of do what we do anywhere you can find it is valuable. So
definitely. And we want to thank everyone for joining us today. We'll say hey to Rhodey and Janice and hey Ike. And Eric, who all joined us after the beginning of the show.
Yeah.
We really appreciate y'all joining us this week. Come to the Denver Music Gear Expo.
Yep, we're about, I think almost exactly 30 days away?
We are 30 days away. June 13th at the Sons of Italy. We've got PRS coming. We've got Maris. We've got Fender Studio.
All Foss, Earthquaker, Hendrickson.
All sorts of good stuff. So come on out and join us. You can touch the dance floor there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, see and meet some of the makers that make the things that are used by some of your favorite bands.
Yeah, it'll be a good time.
Yeah.
So we want to thank y'all for joining us again on the Denver Music Gear podcast. Oh, and we're going to have giveaways. Ike just said we're going to have giveaways at the Music Gear Expo.
Yeah, see, he's seducing you guys with giveaways.
Oh, there's going to be a Fender American Telly.
Wow, okay.
That we will be giving away at the Denver Music Gear Expo, June 13th at the Sons of Italy. Be there.
Saturday, market.
Yes.
11 to 5.
Well, with that being said, this has been the Denver Music Gear podcast. I've been Jacob.
I've been Dylan.
And we'll catch you on the flip side. Play us out. Oh, shit, that's me.
What? How do you keep doing that? It's so weird. You got like a little charge.